What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Pursuit of High Performance podcast. My name is Nikita Ragoza, and if you want to know how to reach your highest potential, optimize your life, and be a high performer, then you are officially at the right place right now. So today's guest is a great, powerful friend of mine. He is an integrative transformational health coach certified by the Institute for Integrated Nutrition. His coaching practice is focused on mindset, movement, nutrition, and metaphysical experience. So spirituality. He's a co-host on the Head and Health podcast. He is currently working on getting into corporate health. He lived in China for a year and held a leadership position in a program where he found his true life purpose. And now he is supporting those same kind of students and people to find their purpose in life. So it is a great honor to welcome my great friend, Ruben. What's going on, brother?
How's it going, brother? I'm so happy to be here.
I'm fucking great for you to be here, man. I'm excited for this conversation. It's gonna be a deep dive, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm excited, man. I can't wait to help the folks.
Yeah. All right. So start by talking about let's go back in time and talk to the viewers about your top pivotal moments in life that really shaped you in becoming who you are today. So what are those top pivotal moments in life and those experiences that really shaped you in becoming who you are today?
So that we don't get into we can get into the weeds, but I like to stick to three. I think three is a good number.
Go for it.
And I think when I think about and I look back when I do my meditations or I want to see, I need some inspiration from within myself. I think back to, just being a teenager, maybe like 9 or 10. And, I grew up with a single mother. Mom had me. I have a little sister. It was just us three. And we had very challenging times, lived in the ghetto of Coney Island, Brooklyn. It's where I'm from. It's where I'm born and raised. And around that time, I can't remember if it was 9 or 10 specifically, I remember going into my mom's bedroom one day. I think I was going to ask her something. I'm a kid, and I needed something from her. And she was just sitting at the edge of her bed, just bawling her eyes out. It's the first time I've ever seen my mom cry like that. Being a single mother, having to support 2 children with a very minimum wage job, like barely making ends meet, no support from anyone else, even though we have a big family. They have their own struggles, right? So she was too afraid to ask for help. I remember seeing her, and it's a clear memory of walking in the room, and I felt impacted by that, right? Like, I never want to be in that position. 2, I never want my mom to be like that again. Like, how can I make that? And I'm this 9, 10-year-old thinking about this, right? And that stood with me. And because of that, I remember going to a supermarket a year or 2 later and just being like, I need a job. And started packing bags at 12 years old. I'm in junior high school. I should be living my childhood life, having a good time, going to parks and all that. But I know I needed to make some kind of money to support my mom. And, it was tough. And I seen her cry after that so many times, and it would just always break my little boy heart. And I was like, I never want to see my mom upset like that again. So just seeing my mom cry was one of those pivotal moments that I was like, I need to put in work. I cannot be ever, in a sense, ever comfortable. Like, being comfortable is not a place I want to be in. As much as people seek comfort, and I love comfort, I love my Buffy blanket that I have that costs $150, fancy ass blanket. It's great, but I never want to be comfortable with what I have, because there's always more to attain. Second time, and a second pivotal moment in my life was a breakup, a huge breakup. And we can get into this later about relationship dynamics and everything. I was in a very toxic relationship, brother. Very, very toxic. I mean, I was emotionally abused. I did my own emotional abusing. So I would, I'm not playing the victim. I was also at fault. This girl, she was younger than me. This girl at that age, I was about 18 when we got together. I broke up with another girl that I was dating to be with this girl. because I was living in an external world. And I was like, this girl is so beautiful that all my friends are going to be like, how did you get this girl? She was like model level beautiful, Puerto Rican and black, beautiful mix, amazing body, pretty face, like the whole nine, right?
Mm.
Personality sucked though. um, and I remember being like the first month, she was just one day she just took my phone and deleted every single friend that I had on my phone and was like, I don't want you hanging out with those people anymore. And I, like the idiot, 18-year-old, testosterone driven, thinking with the down part, not the up part, not my logical mind. I allowed her to do that. I allowed her to separate me from my friends at the time. I lost all my friends at the time. I have many female friends. I lost all of them. All my male friends, because she felt that if I hung out with my male friends, I would be accessible to women, which she was definitely afraid of being cheated on. She had immense jealousy issues. I also had immense jealousy issues. So there's once again, no victim blaming here. So we did that to each other, to the point that all we had was each other. Horrible place to be. And that lasted a year and a year and a half of it got so dark, so dark. Like, I remember our final argument, we both grabbed each other by the neck. That's how dark it got. Like, we grabbed each other and gripped. We're like, you're not getting out of this alive type of thing. And I remember having a thought after because I remember it was like in public. It was on 86th Street. So if you know Brooklyn,
Yep.
Bensonhurst, 86th Street, we were over there. We had just had sushi in one of my favorite sushi spots on 25th Avenue. And we got into a fight in the sushi place. It ended up going outside. That happened. We ended up walking, just screaming at each other at the top of our lungs. So mind you, everyone's seeing this. We grabbed each other by the neck. No one stopped us. No one. And there's people passing. You know how busy 86th Street is. No one stopped us. To the point I guess we got so pissed. She walked away, and I didn't chase her out. I ended up walking my own way. Thank God for that. And that's when the thought occurred, I cannot do this anymore. So I broke up with her the following week. And that really threw me into turmoil. I was all alone. I was addicted to gaming. I remember spending 10, 12 hours on gaming. I would go to college, go to work, and game because I was trying to escape. And I was lucky enough to just meet the right people. I was lucky enough that people gave me books to read, books. And I tell everyone I read a book a week, which I heard you do as well.
Yeah.
And I think books really brought to light because I had no guidance. I didn't have a father. My uncles all live really far, Florida, Puerto Rico. I never had a masculine figure to kind of show me the way. So I had to figure that shit out. And I was lucky enough to read books like, and people may think this book is very controversial. I read The Game by Neil Strauss, of understanding the secret society of pickup artists. And that kind of led me down a rabbit hole, obviously, in that space. And I got into that space for a while. But what it taught me was I was able to meet a band of brothers, one, and two, I was able to rebuild my confidence because I lost it during that relationship. I lost a big part of my confidence because this woman emotionally drove me insane. To the point that I felt like I was never going to be emotionally ready for another serious relationship, which led me on for several years being single, having sex with women, but avoiding getting too deep at all costs. But I was able to build a band of brothers. I was able to rebuild friendships. I was able to, and this is a matter of many years. It's a dark part, but it was meant for me to meet these brothers, to meet other men doing these amazing things that completely shattered my reality of what was possible. And yeah, it came from a dating kind of place, but I was like, if you can do this with dating, what else can you do this with? Right? Like these guys were shattering possibility. Like, and I know, this may sound controversial once again, but this was about 9-10 years ago. But I remember like seeing one of my best guy friends at the time, just like meeting a girl at a nightclub. It was still early in the night, so no one was really drunk or drinking yet. Within 20 minutes, he's walking out with her. I don't see him for the rest of the night. And in the morning, he texts our group chat, and he's like with a picture of him and her, like in the bed. Obviously, she's in the picture, like smiling. And we're like, you did that in 20 minutes. And that
Wow.
just shattered my reality in a sense, because I never thought something like that would be possible. How do you just meet somebody and in 20 minutes you have them in your bed? Like,
Mm,
this is psychological game we're playing here. So
mm,
that's what led me to psychology, led me to read
mm,
philosophy, and I kept just, my curiosity just grew and grew and grew.
mm,
And I wasn't that successful in gaming. Gaming, I put that in quotations for folks out there. I was not that successful as the many men that I knew. I was okay.
mm,
um, and through that opportunity, I was able to meet my current partner. We've been together. It's about to be 6 years. So if it wasn't for me doing that, I would have never met Karina,
mm,
which is my partner. So, that was a big turning point in my life. And then the final one I'll go to here was China. And you mentioned in the intro, I spent a year in China. Um, and to get to that point, were many small incremental moments. And those incremental moments were me doing this random program for people like me, like Latino, Blacks, who come from these really impoverished communities, right? I came from
mm,
Coney Island. So I was part of this program. I'm not gonna say the name of the program because I currently work for it.
mm,
But I use this program to kind of jumpstart me for networking opportunities, and to kind of shift to where I was working. Because at the time I was stuck in retail. And, the retail game is hard to get out of. If you're in retail, you can make really good money being a salesman, but it's not the place I wanted to spend the rest of my life. So I did this program, tried to get into finance. I failed at that. But in the midst of that program, I met a guy. And this guy was a director of an English school in China. And I was like, ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to go to Asia. So I was like, dude, like, are you hiring for teachers? And he's like, actually, I am. We met. I remember sitting in a coffee shop with him for 3 hours, just chatting. We just connected at such a great level. And he was like, yeah, there's steps you have to do, but I would love to have you come to China and be a teacher. And at the time I was like, well, how am I gonna do that? I just got into a relationship with my girlfriend. I don't think she's gonna come with me. And my family and all these things started to come to me. But I was like, you know what? When is the next time I'm gonna have this
mm.
opportunity?
Yeah.
When I'm gonna die one day. Like, what I will pick myself up. Like, I will figure it out. I've had hard times in my life. This is not gonna be any different.
Mm,
Um, so at the time I was working at AT&T, and I was very, very, I just hated that job. I hated going
mm,
every day. I was stressed out all the time.
mm.
The whole numbers driven thing, I was just tired of it. To the point that I just up and quit, I just quit. I had
Yeah.
a significant savings account. So I strategically quit. I didn't do it like, oh, I don't have any money. So I strategically quit. I have about 3 months worth. And I was like, in 3 months, I'll probably get my Chinese visa, and the TEFL, which I needed a certification. So I am certified for teaching English to to students overseas. And
Awesome.
I did all that, man. I did all that. It was a tough 6 months though, because the
Mm,
visa is not easy to get.
mm,
Getting a job visa for China is very challenging. So I ended up lasting longer. So I had to
mm,
move out of where I was living. I had to go back to living with my mom again, which was not that great. I had
mm,
been living on my own for 4 years. So I started going into this dark place again. Not because of a break, well, in a sense, a breakup, right? I broke up with AT&T in a
mm.
sense. So
Yeah.
we're continuing that same thing.
Yeah.
And I ended up, living with my mom again. Getting the visa took way longer than it needed, to the point that I was using credit cards because, like, my savings account was dwindling. So I was like,
Mhm,
I need some cash on hand. So I started using credit cards. I remember cutting my cell phone bill, only utilizing Wi-Fi at the time, just to, like, I needed to save money in any which way possible. I sold like all my stuff, and I remember I go to Australia. I was like, I just wanted to see my girlfriend. She was currently in Australia doing a overseas program for
mm.
school. So I ended up going to Melbourne for a month. So I
Wow.
spent a month in Australia, which was a beautiful city if you haven't been, um, and staying with her. While I was in Australia, my visa finally came in the mail.
Mm.
And my buddy calls me. He's like, I need you here in 2 weeks. So I had to buy a flight back to New York, buy this flight. I had to buy my flight, which thank God the school paid for, to China. So within a week, I'm jet lagged as hell.
Mm.
Within a week, I had to leave to China. So I did a 24-hour flight to get back from Australia because you got to take you got to take a flight, you land somewhere, you got to take another flight because you're on the other side of the goddamn planet. So within a week, I go from Melbourne, Australia, come back to Brooklyn, and then I'm back
Mm.
on the plane heading off to Guangzhou, China, where
Mm.
they were going to pick me up and bring me to my apartment. So they paid for my apartment, all these things. And I got to China, man. It was a surreal experience. It was like being on a completely different planet, culturally, like just completely, once again, shattered my reality of what was possible. And I experienced dark times out there. I drank a lot. I was in a 2-bedroom apartment by myself, which was not healthy for what I needed at that time. Me and Karina was going through our own thing because long distance relationships are very, very, very challenging. I
Mm.
was missing my family. I was missing all my friends. And due to the time difference, it was really hard to find time to talk to them based on like my schedule, and all these other things that were happening. So I went through a dark time. I experienced the darkest sides of myself. The anxiety I experienced out there was the first time where I actually had a panic attack where, your heart starts beating really fast. You start
Mm.
hyperventilating and you're sitting there. I remember having to go to the balcony and just like breathing and looking into the distance because I was just in this like state of just high stress. And I didn't understand why at the time, but obviously it was just everything hitting at me at once. I got a little kitten to kind of have something with me. I've always had cats in my life. I'm looking at mine right now. Um, and that didn't work. So I ended up giving her away because I really want to give her a life where I was just like barely there. She was a little kitten. She needed a lot of attention. And I felt like I couldn't provide that. And it got to a point that I was just like, okay, I ended up leaving a month earlier than what my contract with the school was because I just couldn't do it anymore.
Mm.
And it felt defeated. It was one of those moments. It's just like, I know if you watch my Instagram stories, like you got to stick in there, you got to like dig yourself in there and just stay, like deal with it. Right. But at that time I was like, nope, I'm giving up. I'm throwing in the towel. I need to go back home because if I don't do this right now, who knows what harm I'm going to cause myself. That's how dark it was. I was having
Mm.
some bad thoughts. So I ended up, they were completely understanding about it. I remember them, if you don't complete your contract, they don't give you money to go back home. They don't give you the check. But I was honest with them. They understood my situation. They understood, that I was having this anxiety, which I was very surprised because, the Chinese people are known to be very like work driven, not emotional, like all these things. But that was not the experience I had. They're very amazing people, and I
Mm.
worked with some of the greatest people I've ever worked with when I was out there. I loved all my coworkers out there. So they understood. They gave me the check anyway, and I was able to jump on a plane back to New York. And
Mm.
it was, it wasn't like I landed and everything was peachy because I was unemployed.
Mm.
Luckily I saved money while I was in China, but it wasn't enough. It took me 6 months again to find some work. I did some odd work here and there because I do a little bit of photography and videography. So those gave me money here and there to support me. I was living in my aunt's basement at the time, which was funny because I was in the dark. In my mind, I felt like I was in my basement. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
like my inner world, I was experiencing it in I was
Externally.
experiencing that externally, exactly.
Yeah.
So I felt that way too. Like I felt like I was in the deepest and darkest time of my life. And funny
Mm.
enough, I was 25 and I'm like, oh, this is what happens when you hit a quarter century of living. Like,
Mm.
does this happen to everyone? Um, but I was thankful to have friends who, I got a call from Dougie, Dougie,
Yeah.
about Next Level, which is an emotional intelligence training, for those who don't know. But I got that call, and I think it was just the universe, God, whatever the hell you believe in. It was just something pushing me, like, hey,
Mm.
you need this right now. You need to take control of your emotions again, because right now you're
Mm.
out of control. And I remember not having the money for it, but I was like, I'll figure it out. And I figured it out. I got the money, went to Discovery, and just amazing things happen when you listen to what the world is offering you. When God, the universe. And I know Michael Singer talks about this in the Untethered Soul, as well as in the Surrender Experiment, 2 books from him. And he talks about, like, if you don't listen to these callings, life will keep throwing shit at you until you listen, right? And so,
Yep.
and God, the universe, this entity kept throwing this at me, and was just like, until you figure it out, you continue to descend into your darkness, and who knows where that will lead you to. But my descent to darkness was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, because me going to next level, me being in that darkness, I was able to find my purpose, one. Two, find my masculinity, find my grounding, find that, like, you're a man, like, these are the energies you bring. You are here to serve others, which is my biggest thing. And it got me to remove myself from being selfish to being selfless. And it really gave me the opportunity to meet people like yourself. I think Next Level brought us together. Next Level brought Jesse into my life, who's the co-host of the Hidden Health podcast.
Yeah.
And it brought all these other people whom I would have never met if I didn't make that decision, because I didn't have money at the time. And, I did all the Next Level, all the levels, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I was able to break free from that descent to darkness and find my way back into the light, as folks would say. But I still hold on to that darkness, because as folks may think it's a bad thing. And yes, I experienced some negative things, whether that was the anxiety attacks, which were consistent, my horrible sleep cycles at the time, all these dark parts. I found what I needed in that darkness. It was deep in there. Yeah. It's scary to go to, but I went into it. I experienced my anger in so many forms. I experienced my sadness in so many forms. All of these parts of me that I was just like, these are parts of me. This is what exists. And what are you going to do about it? And that was the question that came through Next Level, was like, I was living in that space. So I never asked myself, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to support others who may be going through what you're going through in the future? So that's what really brought me into coaching, which, I remember doing a nice mystical experience. And in that mystical experience, in the visions that I was having, it was like, you are meant to be a guide, a teacher. I remember the night before doing that mystical experience, we had a book open, and it kind of goes through tarot cards and all that stuff, spiritual stuff. And it goes by your birthday, numerology, and all this stuff. And I remember, based on my birthday and numerology and all these things, the card that come up for me was the Hermit. And the Hermit is literally the guide. And then the next day, I have this crazy visual experience about me being the guide. And what my mind was basically telling me is, it's like, as much as I was trying to escape it, because part of me was trying to escape it, did not want to accept that that's what I need to do in this life currently, this current life that I'm living. Like, you need to be a teacher, you need to be a guide, you need to be a coach, right? These are all the same thing. A shaman, like, all these people are the same thing. They're all guiding people before you. And I remember trying to escape that, and it was like, it keep pushing it in my face. Like, this is what you're doing. This is what you're supposed to do. If you continue to escape it, you will not reach your highest potential. You need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do this. I talked about this on the Hidden House podcast. Me and Jesse have an episode from like a year and a half ago, talking about this. I forget what episode number it is, but it's one of our 2 only ones. But like, I had to have that experience. As much as I tried to escape it all these years, it was in my mind, but I just ignored it because I thought I had to do other things. It was like, no, this is what you need to do, and whatever you're gonna do tomorrow needs to lead to this. And that's kind of like, if it wasn't for these past experiences that I talked about, seeing my mother cry to give me that opportunity, right? And then, breaking my ex-girlfriend, kind of leading me to meeting the group of men, plus getting into books, because I never read before that, right? And then China being that descent into darkness, and coming out of that with my gifts, Wow. So it's just through the darkness I was able to find my gifts. And
wow, bro, I fucking feel that right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's those pivotal moments, man.
Yo, thank you for being vulnerable enough and sharing everything that you just shared. I want to connect with you right now and say that I am a mirror of you and you're a mirror of me, because I
Mm,
went through the same exact experiences. Because one, when you brought up your mother, I had
mm,
the same experience with in my family. So my parents got divorced when I was 10. My mom was hustling and just working as a single mother, like your mother was, doing anything she could to put food on the table, like your was. And I saw my mom go through a lot of dark shit. Like she went through a lot of fucking dark shit, like where she had to go on medication, where she had a lot of anxiety and fear, where she like went through a lot of her own stuff and pain. So seeing my mom go through that, I made the decision that I got to do whatever it takes in order for me to not experience that, and in order for my mom to not experience that ever again, and in order for other people to not experience that again. So that's
mm.
what led me to coaching as well. So I definitely can understand and align with what you experienced with in your childhood with your mom. And number two, going to the ex-girlfriend, not your the ex-girlfriend. The toxic relationship you were in when you were experiencing all the emotional abuse and everything that you were going through. I had the same exact experience with the past relationship, with the past relationship that I had, and we broke up 2 months ago, and it's the best thing that ever happened for me,
Mm,
because I was like you were. I was in a toxic relationship for 2 years, and it was emotional abuse from both ends. So from her, from me.
mm,
Um, the same exact shit that was coming up for you, like a lot of arguments, emotional abuse, even physical abuse, a lot of triggers and repressed emotions coming up. Man,
mm,
it was a lot of shit that came up, like, and it like honestly, that's why I always say everything happens for us, because in those moments when we're in these intimate relationships, whether it's relationships that we co-create from the relationships that we had from our childhood with our moms or dads, and we co-create those experiences to relive them. They happen for us in order for us to go within and see what gets to be fucking healed. What is
mm,
the pain? What is the trauma that gets to be healed that has not been seen? So it was through those moments that where you and I went through, we saw that pain, we saw that trauma, we saw the inner critic, the inner judge, the inner victim that came up. So it was through those dark moments that we saw the light. And again, you got to go through these dark moments to actually see what has been not healed. So again, like I can totally align and relate to what you experienced in your past relationship, and what you brought up about China and going through
mm,
discomfort and seeking discomfort as well. That's what we get to do as men in our society, to grow and to evolve and to be the best versions of ourselves. We get to seek discomfort, and that's when our armor strengthens. That's when we strengthen our
mhm,
spirit and our soul. We got to go through these experiences and to really just get out of our comfort zone. So, and even with the anxiety that you were experiencing, I want to bring first. I want to bring up your the relationship aspect. So talk about
mhm.
the dynamic experience within relationships that you experienced with your mom, and what what uh what were the obstacles and challenges that you experienced living without a father and not having that masculine father figure in your life.
That's a great question. And just to give everyone a sense as well, like the fourth pivotal moment, real quick, is that I got to connect with my dad when I was 25 as well, before my descent to darkness. It's
Wow.
like I needed that masculine energy to support me during that time. And having my dad back into my life made a big difference. So I
Wow.
just want to put that out there, and we can get into that in a bit on that experience as well. But
Yeah.
going into what you said, like that was hard. Um, growing up, I only had women around me. I have a ton of aunts. Like my grandmother had 13 children, 13 children. Eight of those were all women. Seven of those were men, and most of them passed away before I was even born.
Mm.
One of my uncles got killed, murdered in Puerto Rico due to some violence. Was shot and murdered. Two of my uncles died from sickness. Not sure. My mom doesn't even know of what, because she was too young to
Mm.
remember. My grandmother and grandfather both passed away when my mom was 13 years old. So obviously my mom has her own set of trauma, because
Yeah.
imagine being a child and both of your parents passing away in one year, right? So my mom always had my aunts, and God bless all my motherfucking aunts. I want to say that here on this podcast live. Like, they were the greatest thing to my mom, because even though, she had two children, she was doing it alone. When she couldn't do it, she was able to send us to our aunts, and my aunts really showed me the value of being nice, being kind, being family oriented, taking care of the other, right? Which is why I'm so about community. Like, when I have a child, I don't want to live alone in a house with a white picket fence and a dog. I want to live in kind of like a community aspect. I want to live with my friends, so that my child has Uncle Jesse, Uncle Nikita, aunt this, aunt that, right? Like, they have other people to go to who can be their guides as well. So once again, I want to say that, because especially my oldest aunt, who's kind of like the grandma of the family, she's in her 70s, healthy. She's a rock. She really took care of me during my dark descent. Like, she was really there for me. She's the one that fed me. She's the one that gave me the roof over my head for those few months, because technically I was homeless, right? And she's the one that really supported me. So, I just want to give it that shout out there. But there were a lot of great things that came from that. But I never really had the masculine figures, right? And obviously, as a child in today's age, I was into video games, so that was my escape at all times. I was addicted at one point, um, but my masculine figures came from gaming. So I think of, like, if folks out there are game heads, there's a game called Final Fantasy. I played every single one of them, and the main characters were the people I looked to. Whether that's Final Fantasy 7, Cloud Strife, Final Fantasy 8, Squall Lionheart. All these games had hero journeys, right? The hero doesn't want to accept, the journey goes, it's a Carl Jung, Joseph Campbell type of thing. If you're into the hero with 1,000 faces, or you're into Star Wars. Star Wars is very much the hero's journey. These games had a similar aspect, and I think me seeing those main characters and being able to virtually play them was like, this is you. You're going through this in your own weird way, right? So gaming is where I turned to, and I was really big into Japanese anime. So I never loved American cartoons, because they were, to me, I always was very curious. I always asked questions. So if it didn't give me the opportunity to ask questions, which is why I never watched The Simpsons, people are like, you're crazy. You never watched all these, like, American cartoons growing up. I was like, because they didn't have fucking value for me. They didn't have fucking value. They didn't teach me value, like virtues and lessons. Japanese anime did.
Yeah.
When I was there sitting 5 p.m. after school watching Dragon Ball Z on Toonami, right? Like, Goku was the guy I would look to, because he would never fucking give up.
Nah.
And that was such a lesson for me. Like, no matter what the fuck happens, he's getting his ass beat. This enemy is formidable. Just killed all his boys, like all his friends. And he's the only one who could stand up to this. And in that, he found the power necessary to overcome this obstacle. Whether that was him fighting Frieza and turning Super Saiyan. And I know I'm getting into anime, but it made a big difference for me in a time where I needed it. And a lot of people may think, oh, it's entertainment. That's not what it was for me, because I was too in my head asking questions like, why is Goku, why does he never give up? What is guiding him, or what is giving him the necessary motivation to continue finding the strongest fighters in the universe, in a sense. And it was not only him, but I watched Rurouni Kenshin, samurais, and the value of understanding what the value that samurais had, and the virtues and the honor, and learning about those values. So a lot of my upbringing was Japanese anime, which led me to be curious about Japanese history, which led me to be curious about all these warriors that existed back then. So a lot of my core values, in a sense, come from Japanese culture, which is, everyone you ask, I talk about it in our podcast all the time. Japan was the best place I've ever been to. It just maintains their integrity with their culture, their history, and they accept everything. They're very honorable people, like the best, right? One of my favorite books, Musashi, which actually Jesse gifted to me for my birthday about a year ago. It's the best gift that I've ever had. And it's a fucking book. I've gotten cameras. I've gotten PlayStation 4 for Christmas. I've gotten all these expensive techs. But to me, a book is the best gift you can ever give someone or ever receive. So I was grateful Jesse understood that I love Japanese history, mythology, and all these things, and he got me that book. So amazing stuff in that book. But yeah, man, like I know I went on a little tangent, but those were like anime and gaming was the place that I would go to. And obviously I had guy friends that we would hang out every weekend. You know, I would go, I did all the stupid things. I went out, drank, I went to parties, I did all that. So I was able to have that experience as well. My mother, the greatest thing she ever did was never put a leash on me. She allowed me to be my full self, right? She allowed me to be crazy, to get in trouble, to do all these things. Yeah, she scolded me when I did bad things, right? Whether in school or outside. Luckily, I never did anything to get arrested or anything of that nature. But I did some bad shit. I've hurt myself many times. I got scars all over my body from doing stupid things, like but she allowed me to do my things, and then she would question me about it. I mean, my mom caught me having sex at 15 with my ex-girlfriend. Like she literally, like I didn't hear her come in. Me and my ex at the time are doing the deed, and she walks in the room. So she caught it, like straight up. And she didn't come in, hit me, or like pull me off like these crazy things you probably see in movies. She closed the door and she said, I want, like, before she closed, she was like, come talk to me, and close the door. And instead of doing that, she sat me down and be like, we need to talk about protecting yourself and make sure that you don't have a child. Don't make the same mistakes I made, because she had me when she was 20 and my father was 16. So don't make the same mistakes. You see where I'm at right now. It's because I had to take care of you too. I had to sacrifice my life in order to pursue. Do you want that? Be careful. Be careful. And after that, I remember I was just like, fuck, I'm using condoms all the time, Yeah. I never want to be in that, which is, I'm 30 years old right now. Still don't have children. I desperately want children, but I want to be ready, right? Financially, emotionally, like all these things to provide my child with the best that they can have. My mother gave me great lessons, and the fact that she allowed me to just be my wild self and be the wild child that existed within me with a firm hand, but she allowed that for me. And I think that was great. And I was able to find, thank God, masculine figures in these stories, which is why, like, when people like shoot down video games or shoot down watching, animes and all these TV shows that exist, I'm like, don't shoot it down. Instead, be curious about them. Where do these stories come from? Because these stories come from other stories. They come from historical stories. They come from mythology. They come from lessons that were taught in the Bible. I'm not religious, but there are great lessons in these historical texts.
Yeah.
And you can learn so much from them. And I was so grateful to, one, have that curious mind, and two, be able to take them somewhere, right? Until I was able to, YouTube finally came out. I was able to have kind of masculine figures on YouTube, whether that was like Elliot Hulse. I used to watch a lot of his videos. Aubrey Marcus, I used to watch his videos. Joe Rogan was a big influence on me growing up. And several other, men that had podcasts and YouTube videos that I was able to like learn from. I mean, I got into the gaming industry, as I mentioned earlier, and that was another place I was able to find the men that kind of were teaching values in a sense. Like, yeah, they did pick up women, but there was a self-improvement aspect to it as well. Like, like, oh, you want to get better at this? You need to go to the gym. You need to eat healthy. You need to be mentally strong, right? So read books on emotion. You need to do all these things in order to be in the bet. You need to be better than the rest of the 90%. You need to be so good, and this is a value that I hold on to. You need to be so good that when you have a woman and you and her break up, you need to be the best thing that ever happened to her, and it'll be hard for her to even find someone else because you're so goddamn good, right? I'm not saying that to be like narcissistic or anything. It's more of like, just know that if you continuously work yourself, 90% of other people are probably not doing that. So you're the best 10%. There's a small bucket out there. So if you're the best, you'll be able to like have longer lasting, beautiful relationships. And two, like if it does happen where you break up, just know that it's not going to be this like emotional, like horrible thing that we experience, right? but instead it's going to be something that will blossom. Instead,
Mm,
you left it better than you found it. You left that
yeah.
person better than you found them, because they look to you as a leader, as a man, as a
Mm,
masculine man with a feminine woman. She will look to you as a leader, and I learned that over being in a 6-year relationship, right? um so I was happy that my mom gave me that, have all these opportunities to learn. And my mom was able to instill in me, respect women. Women are amazing. I mean, I had all my aunts, I had all these people who really supported me when I was a child and growing up. So it was like a tribe of women that really like brought me up.
mm. Wow, brother. Wow, man. We have so much in common. You don't even understand. Like, I had the same exact experience. Like, my mom
That's
and my
crazy.
grandma. I'm serious. Like, my mom and my grandma raised me, basically. Um, and even connecting with what you said, my mom also gave me the freedom to go outlay and do whatever I wanted to do. She gave me that freedom to um, fall down and scrape my knees, get back up, learn, unlearn, and just like really find my own journey. She gave me
Mm,
some guidance, but uh, yeah, I want to I speak about like masculinity a lot, but I want to
mm,
shout out all the women, like shout out
right.
all the moms, like shout out to your mom, shout out to my mom, shout out to all the moms that like take the responsibility as the
Hmm.
masculine figure and the masculine energy to really raise boys and girls. So shout out to all the women out there that are just really like just doing whatever it takes to do the best that they can to raise their children. So shout out to all you women and shout out to all your moms. um, I want to talk about more. I want to go deeper into masculinity and
Yeah.
what we experience as men. So this is a really deep topic for me because
Hmm.
I personally work with men, specifically in my coaching business,
Right.
and I see a lot of pain, man. I see a lot of repressed anger, a lot of rage, a lot of fucking rage that and fear,
Mm,
because what you were telling me about anxiety is actually fear is the core feeling that we experience, but we as men created an illusion to feel anger instead, because anger is a stronger emotion to feel because we're fearing the actual fear of the feeling. So
mm,
fear is what we actually experience most of the time when we feel anxiety, because as men we would rather feel anger because it's stronger, like I said. But man, I see a lot of men hurting. A
right.
lot of my friends, close people, a lot of close friends in my life hurting, man. Like a lot of men need that support, and a lot of men need that guidance and just a support system that brings each
Mm,
other up.
right.
Um, so what can you talk about to support men? Like, how can we build a society where we don't shame men to repress their feelings? Because when you repress your feelings, when you bottle that shit up, it's fucking dangerous. It's fucking dangerous, not for yourself only, but for other people, man. Like,
Yep.
it's fucking crazy, bro. Like,
Yeah.
what I see, what I experienced myself, like all these patterns and behaviors, what we went through from our relationships and our childhood, those coping mechanisms and that conditioning, like all that repressed anger turned into
Oh yeah.
rage. And man, what can we do, bro? What can we do to support other men to rise as sacred, divine men to
Right.
release these repressed emotions? What can we do? What can we do, bro?
Oh man, like this is a topic that's so dear to my heart. I'm actually getting
Yeah.
goosebumps right now as you're
Yeah.
saying all this. Um, and first I want to say I've been extremely jealous watching your stories when you hang out with Jesse and the rest of the crew, because like a band of brothers. Like the most important thing that I will say is that like you need a band of brothers. You need a small tribe of brothers. Think about it. Indigenous tribes, the men go out and hunt, and guess what they would do during those hunts? They would talk, they would laugh,
Yes.
they would make fun of each other, they would do stupid men shit, right? Like we
Yes.
need that, we crave that.
Yes.
And it's something we're missing in the society because we, like even now, As you were saying, like men are, you know, the men we work with, because during my day job, I work with men. A lot of men, obviously there's women, but there's always more men in the program I work for than women,
Yeah.
because they are in such need of help. They're in such need. They're depressed. They're scared.
Yes.
They're ashamed because of what
Yes.
this toxic king, or this tyrant king energy that has existed for generations, right?
Yeah.
Has created this world that we live in. This is why men get so, you know, get the kind of short end of the stick. We're the bad guys, right?
Yeah.
And if people are interested, there's two podcasts on the Hidden Health. One with Monica Yates, so women actually talking on the side, like we're hurting men as a society. She talks about it. Amazing freaking episode, probably one of the best episodes of season 2 of the Hidden Health podcast. So one, check that one out. And then we have a podcast with Dominic, actually 2 podcasts with Dominic Q, and he also talks about masculinity and the healthy masculinity and how can we accept that more. So, you know, there's people out there doing the work. But what I would say, based on my experiences, as I mentioned, one, that tribe of men, I think, is so vital. I can't go. I think me and Jesse, outside of the podcast, we talk every week because we want to make sure we're updating each other. We give each other kudos to what we've been doing, like what has been good, how we're doing, like emotionally, how we're doing, you know, just checking in on each other as men. Because even though we have our partners with us, like, you know, I live with Karina, Jesse lives with Val, for instance, I feel like we still act a certain way because we have to be the leaders in our relationships, right? But when you're with your men, you get to just like, just like, like I got that sigh of release that I'm with my men.
Yes.
And if I need to fucking cry on my friend's shoulder, I can do that, because I know for my woman, yeah, I can do that with her, but I'm not gonna fucking do that every day because I'm the leader in this relationship, and I want to be strong for her. You know what I mean? I want to be able to cry on my best friend's shoulder and be like, and him just say, bro, it's going to be all right. Dude, it's going to be okay. You'll be all right. I'm here for you. You know what I mean? And that's what we had, like in indigenous societies, we had that tribe of men. And on top of that, we have to educate ourselves on what are these virtues? What are these values? Right? I just finished reading this book called The Lives of the Stoics, and I'm actually working on Ryan Holiday, man. I'm actually working on the summary. So every book I read that impacts me, like a lot of books I read, I don't really like, I'm like, okay, this was all right, but I'm not going to take a note of it. This book, I usually, when a book really impacts me, I do like my own essay on it. So I take notes, I kind of get my own learnings from it. The Stoics have been, probably in the last year, have been the people I've been going to the most. Because they just understood, man. They understood, like, philosophize, you think, you have these people around you to kind of like bounce thoughts of each other. So us doing this already is very powerful, right?
It is.
And having those, and then like taking all that in a ball and being like, okay, what am I going to do with this? Take action. Because as a masculine man, you know, we are straightforward. We are pile drivers. If you read The Way of the Superior Man, he says the masculine energy is like oh my God, like
beautiful book.
The book, like, to the point that I had my job ordered 30 copies and I give them to the men, and I host a men's group for the young men. And we use that book as a reference source. So I constantly tell them, go to that page, read that page, like, because it's such a great book in understanding not only masculine, but also the feminine, and that those both exist within us, and being able to use that where we see fit, and to be able to utilize the good energy, right? Instead of being this tyrant king that exists, unfortunately, with all these leaders. And even like you look at Rome, which is kind of funny, because if you study the history of Rome, it looks like America is going through the same thing, which will be, you know, there was the fall of Rome, there will be the fall of America if we continue going this way. And what Rome suffered with was constantly dealing with tyrant kings, and one of the worst kings was Nero. And you know, and I think it was Seneca who was kind of like his guide in a sense, and kind of like his like angel on his shoulder, being like, hey, stop doing that, you know. And Seneca was a Stoic philosopher, and Stoicism is such a great way because they meditate on the mortality of death. They understand that risk is such a great thing, and like as men, where we feel most alive is when we're on that edge. And if you've
Yes,
read
the
The Way of
edge.
This, the edge, man, that's where we
Yes.
need to live. We need to live on the edge. And that's why I started this by saying, like, comfort is not where I want to be. I learned that when I saw my mom crying at the age of 10, right? And I think it was one of the best lessons I learned, because I get to be, when I'm feeling myself getting too comfortable, I start feeling sick. Like my body starts going through things that I'm just like, like, what am I going through? Oh, you've been too comfortable. What the hell are you doing? Like, put yourself out there,
Wow.
get uncomfortable, put more work on your plate. Abraham Lincoln, I've read one of his biographies this year, called Lincoln's Melancholy. Lincoln suffered from depression, anxiety, all these things, just like all our other great leaders. Martin Luther King, like all these people. I highly recommend reading any of Robert Greene's book. It's the best way to get hundreds of biographies in one book, because Robert Greene is such a fantastic writer, and he brings history into all his books. And I think we can learn so much from these people that did such amazing things that we still talk about to this goddamn day. And Abraham Lincoln, even though he would be busy and be anxious and all these things would be happening to him, he would add more to his plate, because he's like, the only way for me to remove this from my body is by doing more. And when I read that, I was just like, we live in a society, or at least in America, that we need to remove things from our plate. While I'm not knocking taking time out to really dig in, like I just took a solitude retreat about 2.5 weeks ago, where I went on my own and just did nothing. I just read books and journaled. That's all I did, and took little walks every day. And while we need that, that's only 10% of your year. The rest is putting in the fucking work. The rest is making sure that you're in service to other people. So as a man, I feel like if we're not in service to other people, you're missing a lot of your masculinity. Because whether that's the warrior, and king, warrior, magician, lover, like all these archetypes that we exist in, all serve others.
Yeah.
Right? Like the magician is the creative part of us. The warrior is the action taker, which I feel like I'm really deeply in my energy right now, is that warrior. So I'm taking a lot of action right now. I'm taking advantage of that energy. The lover is the one who serves their partner, who serves their family, and giving them the required space, right? Sometimes I just need to hold the space for my girlfriend as a man, with that wild, chaotic, but extremely beautiful feminine energy. As he talks about in The Way of the Superior Man, the feminine energy is like the ocean, calm, serene, and beautiful, but occasionally a hurricane will hit it, and it's waves, it's chaos, it's all this, and it's beautiful chaos. And the only thing that can contain that is the masculine energy, right? And you could look at Hinduism, for instance, and the gods, right? You have Shiva, who kind of holds the container for Krishna and all these other gods, right? So you take history, and as men, I always implore the men that I work with, because a lot of my coaching is with men as well, is to study history, to study those people that really bring something, whether that's Marcus Aurelius, who was a king philosopher, one of the best kings who ever existed in Rome, one of the very few great ones, right? And he was a Stoic philosopher. He has a book called Meditations, which a lot of leaders actually hold in their pocket. And a lot of generals of armies hold in their pocket. That's how powerful that book is, right? And then you have ones like King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, to understand the archetypes that we exist in, whether that's boy psychology or man psychology, and understanding like the difference of both. But also understanding that the little boy still exists within you, and that you have to take care of that little boy, and you have to consult him. You have to make sure he's okay. You have to do meditations to ask him, what does he need? What do you need right now? Do you need some fun? You need to go out and play in the sun and do some flips and get into a wrestling match with some of your best friends? Like, fucking do it, because we're chaotic energy, man. I remember the last time I had an episode, I call it an episode of anger, was I was like 19. My mother was dating this guy who, unfortunately, and this is a crazy story, this guy unfortunately brought bed bugs to our apartment. I was 19, so this was over 10 years ago. Brought bed bugs to our apartment. One of the most stressful times of my life. If you never experienced bed bugs, they're almost impossible to get rid of. They procreate at an intense rate. They bite you. You have little bite marks all over your skin when you go to sleep. They come out at night, right? It was horrible. None of us got sleep. It was all over the house. It was all in our furniture. Obviously, we're my mom was a single mom. The guy didn't make a lot of money. He was a fucking deadbeat. And we were suffering through this experience. And I remember it, like as a boy at that time, I wasn't getting a lot of sources to like expel this energy that was just boiling up. And then 6 months into this experience, I remember one day, just like, I went to go take a nap. I had my bed. It was like a futon type of bed thing that my mom bought, because it was like, first when we experienced it, we threw away our mattresses. My mom bought this futon, but unfortunately, because we still had it, they got into that as well. So I wake up, bro, and there's like, it's like just, it was disgusting. It's like a bunch on my bed. Mind you, we were clean people. My mom was a clean freak. She used to clean every single day. She used to get home and clean. So we were not dirty people. We were clean as hell. But for these things just exist, and crevices and cracks, it's really hard to get rid of them. I wake up, they're all over my bed, and it just hit me like the pinnacle of the anger. And I just saw red. Screamed at my sister to get out the room, because we shared a room at the time. Screamed at her, get the fuck out the room. She ran out of the room to go to my mom to be like, Ruben's freaking out. I took the bed, bro, and anger will give you the strength required. I took the bed, picked it up, slammed it, and it broke. And I started just tearing it apart with my hands. I'm just breaking this thing apart. Like, fuck this bed, fuck this thing. I don't want to live here anymore. Like, just like all this fucking energy. And I released it by breaking this bed apart with my bare hands. And just one, to show you the power that anger has, right? And two, after that experience, I was like, oh my God, I have to contain this, because that anger has brought a lot of bad, whether that's my ex-girlfriend, me grabbing her choke. Maybe on a future podcast, we could talk about the experience I had where I stepped up to my mom and kind of had an anger episode with my mom. Thank God I didn't touch her, but I got this close and she felt that. And I lived with a lot of shame in that for quite a while, right? It was until maybe a few years ago where I like forgave myself for that. But all these like episodes that I had, and now I'm like, as men, we have to, that's a powerful energy. I'm not saying to remove it, because that's how it just comes back and becomes this horrible tyrant energy that exists in our world today. But instead, use that energy for good. And when I have anger, when something makes me angry, which has been a lot lately because of the current state of the world, I'm like, great, let me take this and use it to my work, whether that's coaching, whether that's the content I produce, my training for the Spartan that I'm doing right now, the podcast, and putting in that creative work there. And it gives me the energy to go out there and kill it every day, to wake up early in the morning, to be like, I need to go do this 5-6 mile run right now. And, I don't feel that anger anymore, because I'm using healthy ways of expressing it. And it's through creative expression, through connecting to my magician energy, that I'm able to release the energy for good, to be in service of others, right? So as men, that anger exists. It's always going to be there, but I don't think it should be our enemy. Same thing with shame. Shame, I don't think, should be our enemy. We should befriend these, as the Buddha did with Mara, for instance. And here's another story for you. Buddha brought in Mara, who was kind of like your devil in the story of the Buddha. And instead, there's this famous quote to have tea, that Buddha always had tea with Mara. It's like, have tea with those sides of yourself, the anger, the depression. Have tea with them. Don't just lock them in a closet. No, invite them in. What do you need right now? How can I help you? What can I do for you? What do we need to do right now? Okay, we need to express creatively. Great, let's do that. Oh, we need to go and use this energy to have a conversation with a friend. Great, let's use it there. Oh, we need to go out and take charge and work out and do this fitness class for people. Great, we'll do that. Oh, my coaching right now, I have a client and I have some anger. I can help this client by showing my passion and being like, I'm going to inspire the shit out of you for you to take action. You know what I mean? There's so many fucking ways for us to do that. And I think as men, these are like 3 steps we can take: tribe, understanding history and psychology, and then taking all our parts and using it to our benefit. So
Brother, wow, man, thank you so much for sharing those. Wow, man, I really want to connect and mirror back to you. Again, we got so many things in common, and I'm sure that a lot of men out there are going through the same exact thing. So don't repress your fucking emotions, man. Don't fucking repress that. Don't bottle it up. Don't bottle it up. Find that tribe. Like you said, find that tribe to connect, to fucking wrestle, to go on an adventure, to just move your body and to release these oppressed emotions. You know, use anger as fuel, like you said just now as well. So use it for the common good of contribution and make an impact. Like you said, even in my coaching, like using anger as fucking fuel. Like I'm fucking angry with where the world is at right now, and I want to make an impact. Right. I'm angry because men are fucking suffering and going through pain, and I want to make an impact on that, you know? So men, to all you men out there listening right now, you know, you're fucking vulnerable, and you get to be vulnerable as well. Yeah. You know, you get to express your emotions in a healthy way. You know, you get to feel what you're feeling. You get to feel the anger. You get to release it in a healthy way. Whether what you said, whether it's slamming a pillow or breaking something in a healthy way, whether it's screaming, whether it's yelling, whether it's crying, whether it's really it's expressing it through a cathartic experience like that, or even going outside and going for a sprint and working out and using movement as a way to release those emotions. So, man, to all you men out there listening, you're not alone. You matter, and you are fucking worthy. You are worthy of being loved, first of all, and you're worthy to heal. You are worthy to heal, man. I fucking see you. I'm sure Ruben sees you as well. Like we see you. You matter. You brothers matter to us, you know? So it's time for us to step up. It's time for us to heal. It's time for us to release these toxic emotions such as shame, and release all this negativity from our being, and to become whole again, you know, to open up those causes that you've closed, to open up those parts of yourself that you disown, to open up those parts that you repressed, you know. What you were talking about, your shadow self, like the coaching that I do with my life coach, the practices that I went through, it was to reignite and reengage the shadows of myself that have been repressed. So connect with yourself. Go through go through those dark moments, and realign yourself and become whole again. You know, become a whole sacred masculine man again, because this world needs it right now. This world needs it. We don't
more than ever.
Exactly.
Right.
So right, man. No more tyrants. No more victimization. Nope. No more judgment. Letting go of that. No more comparison. I see that so much. No more comparison. Let go of expectations. Let go of people pleasing. Let go of being a doormat, and just be the best version of yourself every single fucking day. Because again, the world needs this. The world needs sacred, masculine, divine men. We get to do this for us, for our families, for the world, for our future generations to come. And we really get to do this work. You know, it's time. That's it. It's it.
Now, can I share one last story? I know we gotta hop off soon, but
please.
I'm gonna go back once again. Like I said, I've learned so much from Japanese anime, and there's one of my favorite animes, which is very controversial. So if you're an anime lover, hear me out. When I was like 14, I started watching this anime called Bleach. It's about this young boy, and what I love about Japanese anime is that most of the main characters are like young teenage boys, because it's all their stories are like from boyhood to manhood, right? So it follows this young man, who's this young boy who becomes what is called the Soul Reaper, and he has his own values, his own virtues, that, you know, he's in service to other people, like all this, right? And throughout the seasons, he gets more and more in touch with his dark side, right? So the whole show, like, he has this power that exists within him that he holds back throughout like 3/4 of the whole entire show. He holds this power back. Occasionally, when he's in a really like bad situation, like he's about to lose a fight, and, you know, this is a fight to save someone he loves, it's usually someone he loves that he wants to save, the darkness will come out and save him. just to give you an idea of how powerful the darkness is. And I always say this to people, like, the light is not the strongest thing. What was there first? Darkness was there
Darkness,
first. In
yes.
order for light to exist, darkness needed to exist. So it's two sides of the
Wow.
same motherfucking coin.
Yeah,
So what I
brother.
love about this show is because it shows that. And throughout the show, 3/4 of the time, remember, he's denying this power that exists within
Wow.
him because he is terrified of it.
Fuck.
And the times it has come out, he's gotten close to hurting his other people, his friends, his family, his loved ones, right? One of my favorite ones is this fight, and you folks can look it up on YouTube. It's Ichigo versus Okura. And if you want to search this after Nikita, it's an amazing fight. It's an amazing fight because you're talking about two people who have different values. One is considered the enemy, which is not really the enemy. That's what I love about shows that showcase like a person's background. Like, even though he's the enemy, he's doing this for a reason. He has his own reasons. And then you have this guy has his own reasons. It's a clash of values, right? So you have this clash, and the main character Ichigo is losing. He cannot fight this person because this person has accepted their darkness, right? So this person is immensely powerful. Okura is immensely powerful. They get into this fight. When Ichigo cannot fight anymore, he gets killed in a sense. He dies for 2 seconds. His darkness comes in to save him and defeats Okura because that's how powerful his darkness is, right? And then throughout the show, like after that, there's one more season after that, and throughout the last season, he has to fight fucking God, Yachuich. He has to fight a fucking someone who decided to become God. And obviously it's anime, so it's very like scientific, but you think about the mythology behind it. In order for him to defeat God, he had to accept all parts of himself. He finally comes to terms that his darkness is a part of him and that he has to accept his fucking darkness.
Yes.
And when he does, he becomes his own version of God. So that show is my favorite because it shows this arc, and it's not perfect. The show has its downsides and whatever if you watch them from start to finish. But what I love was that growth in Ichigo's character to coming to the terms with the fact that I have to accept the side of us to myself. I have to accept my family's history because it goes over his family, which is part of the darkness, right? It has to go into all these aspects of who he is and the people around him. And once he chose to accept it and use it as a tool versus ignoring it, trying to shove it away into this corner, he became his own version of God. And he was able to take down God in a sense, right? So it's this powerful story that I think we can share. And humans love story, and this is why I tried to talk more in story and use these kind of stories, that when you accept all sides of yourself, you are closer to God. You are closer to the godlike version of yourself. You are closer to the highest version of yourself, the pinnacle that you aspire to be as you go into this life and work on yourself, which is a lifetime journey. But it's a beautiful journey, and it gives us something to look to, that all these things exist within us and that all these emotions are beautiful in their own right. And they're there to teach something. So I just want to leave it there.
Man, Ruben, thank you, brother, for sharing that. And again, I'm going to say it again, go through that pain, go through that darkness to see the light. It's in that darkest moments where we see the light. It's in those darkest moments where we realign and become whole again and integrate those dark and shadow selves of ourselves that we repress. So go through that darkness, go through that pain, and persevere through it. Man, thank you, bro. Thank you for sharing that. Before I ask my final question, where can people find you and learn more about you and your coaching business?
Yates and Dominic Q. You can also find me on IG at Ruben Rez, as well as on my website, which is www.rubenrez.com, where I share my blogs. I also have a YouTube channel, same thing, Ruben Rez, everything Ruben Rez. So Rez with 2 Z's. You can find me there. But Instagram is where I spend the most of my time. So connect with me there. You can DM me, all that stuff.
Awesome, bro. And all of those are going to be in the description linked. My final question for you is, what is your definition of high performance and what does it take to reach that?
Definition of high performance is being, and I think you had an episode about this. It's called being an integrated human.
Mm,
It's a term that actually comes from, I think, Robert Greene, who wrote that. He
mm,
has a whole chapter on it in the Laws of Human Nature called "Be an Integrated Human." And what does that
mm,
mean? It means you are in balance. You are, and we talked about masculine energy. What's the masculine energy? The pinnacle of the masculine energy in full balance and in the fullness of himself is the king, the
mm,
king energy, because the king embodies the warrior, magician, lover,
mm.
all in one, right? He's the
Yeah,
leader, not only of leader externally, he's the leader internally. That's right. That cup
that's right.
ping,
That's
right?
right.
That's right. So you have to find what is the king that lives within you.
Mm,
um, and that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of questions. It takes seeking, right? You have to seek. You have to
yeah,
look. You have to be like, I have to. You have to find out your history, your family history. You have to find out your father's history. You have to find out your mother's history. You have to find out their stories, your family's story. What is your family story?
mm,
And then what is the story that you get to create in this life for you and your family eventually, right? Where the changes you need to make, like what are those changes? Oh, your family struggles with heart disease or some kind of cancer. Well, you need to figure out how you can prevent that from happening and continuing in your family downline, right? You
yeah.
need to figure that out through your nutrition, through fitness, right? Like what works for me. This
Mm,
dogma, vegan, carnivore, whatever, like don't pay attention to that. What works for you?
yes.
And that takes time to take. I'm still going through it 10 years later. All the work I've done, I'm still learning. I found a lot more that works for me, which is
Mm,
why I feel like I can embody myself and be a coach to others because I've
mm,
done the work, right? I
yeah,
don't like to give people something if I haven't done it, right?
yeah.
So
100%.
um you just have to seek, be curious, yo. If I was to put a freaking sign in the sky for the entire planet to see, is like, be curious,
Oof.
ask questions,
Yeah.
question everything, and dig deep into those things
Yes.
that really bring your attention. So be curious, be curious, be curious.
Wow. Yeah, brother. Be curious and seek for the truth.
Yes.
Beautiful, bro. I want to acknowledge you for a moment. Ruben, thank you for, first of all, thank you for being here and sharing all your stories and all your gifts and all your blessings and the value that you provided for even for only, not only for me, but for the viewers as well. And I want to acknowledge you for being the masculine man that you are, the sacred masculine man that you are, for doing all the work that you've been doing on yourself from healing past trauma, from releasing any repressed emotions and integrating your whole shadow self within yourself, and just continuing on this journey of self-development and self-improvement, and being able to be there for other men and being there for other women as well. So
Mm,
I really acknowledge you for being a coach, for being a leader, for being a seeker, for being a giver, a lover,
mm.
and a really, at the end, a king. So an integrated king. So thank you for being king and for continuing your journey and your contribution. So thank you, brother. I love you and I appreciate you, and I really am honored to connect with you and for you to be here on this platform. So thank you so much, brother.
And thank you for having me. And thank you to everyone listening. My highest self bows down to the highest version of yourself. So, thank you.
100%. And there were so many questions that I wanted to ask you, and I respect your time, but we're definitely gonna be do part two. So
Cool.
everyone listening, look out for part two coming up soon. And like, subscribe, and share this podcast episode with your family and friends. And until next time, keep pursuing high performance.
Thank you, y'all.